Good morning, everyone. We hope you enjoyed the photos from our digital artists and the music from our a cappella group, the Major Minors. My name is Lauren South, and I'm very thrilled to be the Assistant Director of Enrollment Management here at Flint Hill. And I'm joined by my colleagues on the upper school admission team, Julie Lewis and Justin Fitzgerald. Thank you so much for being here. We're grateful that you're spending part of your morning virtually with us to learn more about the upper school at Flint Hill. In terms of what you can expect today, you'll hear more about our school from our Assistant Head of School for Institutional Advancement, Meredith Van Dyne, our Director of the Upper School, Don Page, and Assistant Director and Academic Dean, Debbie Ayers, will share more about the upper school specifically. And we also have several upper school students, current students and current parents, and an alum of the school, as well as our ninth grade dean here who are excited to share more about their experiences and answer any of your questions during the panel segment. We'll close by telling you more about next steps for exploration and applying to the school. Finally, we want to hear your comments and questions, so please use the chat feature freely, and our team members will respond to your questions either in writing or verbally. And we have a pretty small group today. It's going to be an intimate setting, so you can also feel free to unmute yourselves and just raise a hand or jump in with your questions. All right, so at this time, I'll introduce you to our wonderful Assistant Head of School for Institutional Advancement, Meredith Van Dyne.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Lauren. It's great you all could be here. I am going to turn off my camera momentarily just so I don't distract you from what's on the screen. And as Lauren said, we although we love the really big programs that we have on campus, and it's always wonderful to have the big crowd, we were excited about this morning because we know this way we can ensure with a more intimate group that we can really answer all of your questions. So we have a challenge to issue to you, which is one of you can take the meaningful risk to ask first question at any point. So don't hesitate to add the note in the chat or just ask as something comes to mind that you'd like to learn more about. So what I want to start by saying this morning is our mascot is a husky named Klondike. And we use the Iditarod dog sled as a metaphor for our educational journey and life's journey, frankly, with the idea that some days the journey will be beautiful and breathtaking, like today with the sun that's finally out, and other days the road is bumpy with patches of slippery ice. The beauty is that at Flint Hill, we're all part of a team, and no one person on the sled is more important than anyone else, and we are pulling the sled together. As Huskies, we use the idea of blazing your trail to articulate that we support each journey to find their own unique path, both here at school and as graduates like Mackenzie, making a difference in the world. As parents of upcoming upper schoolers, we respect you are playing for the long game in your child's lives, just as we play for the long game for all of our students at Flint Hill. So my role this morning is to share just a few of the parts of the Flint Hill experience that are through lines, aspects of the experience you can expect throughout your time at Flint Hill. You may have already learned about us that we are innately curious at Flint Hill. We find we come to far more interesting answers because of the questions we're willing to ask ourselves. We wonder things like what will inspire students and engage them in their learning. We know the learning is relevant and dynamic, but how do we make sure it's personal and meaningful for each student? So we take this idea of being curious and innovating very seriously. This is one of the ways we teach. It's active, it's participatory in a way that at times doesn't even feel like school. So last week, my ninth grade daughter came home one night talking about a project in her Algebra 2 Trig Honors math class, where they were working on an assignment about car depreciation, using the concepts from class to solve a number of complex problems. Now, since she's about to be 15 and her interest in cars is increasing, as a parent, I was thrilled to watch her shock about the time it takes before the market value of a car exceeds what you owe when you factor in compounding interest. But that actually wasn't the point of the exercise. Instead, it was a project that required research skills, complex calculations, and managing interpersonal group dynamics, all with real-world applications. Sound like anyone you work with? So I marveled at how many concepts her teacher wove into one project and how engaged the students were in solving the problems. So our teaching and our learning approach is active and engaging. Another one of our through lines has to do with relationships and how we learn, work, and play together. Our core values guide all our interactions and everything we do at Flint Hill. As you read our core values, I'm sure you've noticed that they are action-oriented and not merely words. So let's look at those for just a moment. The idea of respecting and valuing one another equally goes to the heart of who we are and how we treat other people. We honor each person and the uniqueness they bring to our school community. We want every student, every family to bring their full selves to school. But to do that, we know students must feel safe and loved, knowing that there are adults who support them in who they are. So sure, there are traditional and frankly easy ways to assess if our upper school community is diverse. Things like we have families with 1 to 5 children enrolled. Our students come from almost 30 communities across the region. 36% of our students identify as students of color. 70% of our students have parents who did not attend a private school as a child. And we're proud to have a learning center that supports a range of learning styles. And yes, while all these are great indicators that our community genuinely values and attracts difference, the heart of this value is actually in how we treat each other on an individual level. Next is the idea of leading and supporting with compassion. If you follow us on social media or watch local news, you might have seen the story earlier this year, the coverage of our Makers class. They partnered with Magic Wheelchair, a local nonprofit, to create a Halloween costume for a local student named Nathan who's in a wheelchair. Because Nathan is a huge Nationals fan, they created a costume which turned his wheelchair into the famous bullpen cart. And our students traveled to Nats Park where they and the Nats surprised Nathan with his costume. Our Makers teacher, Chris Cook, summed it up really well when he said, quote, "I absolutely love making and building things with a purpose while showing students how empathy and kindness are such valuable traits in a person." The idea of acting with integrity is always at the heart of raising kids, as you know well as parents. And even though we're 3 divisions, the lower school, the middle school, the upper school, we're actually one Flint Hill. And in December, the entire school, all 3 divisions, did a massive food drive to help local organization Food for Others. Every grade participated, donating over 13,000 items. Now, in the upper school, they added an extra layer of fun, and Don will tell you more about this, but because sometimes Huskies are competitive, of course, the upper school turned it into a bit of a contest to see which grade could donate the most food. And throughout the process, students self-reported their contributions, and the winning group was announced. However, the winning advisory group realized something was wrong with the number they were credited with donating. They dug deeper and realized that instead of reporting a total for each of 5 days, they were entering cumulative numbers every day, making their total much larger than it should have been. On their own, those students immediately shared their mistake, saying it wouldn't have been right if we got credit for something we didn't do, and we don't want the real winners to go unrecognized. As parents, as educators, we all know our students won't be perfect, but we want them to know the right thing to do and to do it, especially when no one's looking. And our upper school is a community where it's okay to make a mistake and learn and grow. Imagining what's possible means we're always looking to the future. You will not hear people at Flint Hill School say that's the way it's always been done. Whether it's being the first Apple distinguished school in the region years ago or using a global pandemic to create new ways of doing things, we relish the chance to leverage good questions into great opportunities for our students. And our upper school is a time when students can explore a wide range of interests and try new activities, all with a scaffolding of support in place. Our seniors are going off to great universities because they're blazing the trail. And as Don will tell you more about in just a moment, our upper school prepares students for a life of meaning. You'll see it all come to fruition here with a very strong academic program, incredible arts program, expert college counseling team, competitive athletics, and above all, a true sense of purpose. Thank you for your very kind attention. We're delighted you're exploring our upper school, but I wanted you to know that this is something that's bigger than just one division. It's part of something greater than ourselves, but very much part of our school family, which we would love to welcome you into. Our upper school is an important and special time, and at Flint Hill, it's a special experience. And now to learn even more about the upper school, I'm going to turn it over to my favorite director of the upper school, Don Page.
Yes, I finally made favorite director. I've been working for that. Thank you, Meredith. As Meredith mentioned, we take our core values and our mission very seriously. And it's not enough for us simply to evince these statements. We have to create a judicious and thoughtful plan and put that plan in place to engender and nurture this culture that we really want on this campus. That's why when we start our school year, we have an extended orientation with multiple segments that are held in either advisory, class meetings, or school-wide meetings. If you were to walk on campus during orientation week this year, you would have seen a multitude of activities ranging from the pragmatic mundane to the socially complicated gathering. You would have seen advisors going over the student's schedule with them, making sure they understand where they're going, when they need to be there. You would have seen sessions on how to drop classes and add classes, some of our key behavioral expectations, textbook usage, how to find textbooks. But you would see those things at almost any school. What makes Flint Hill unique are these deeper activities that we put together and utilize to build community among the students that are both new and returning students. We know that the field games that the juniors and sophomores played together out in the field that week are going to yield better conversations between them in the hallways. We know that when the athletic council sits down with all of the students and they go through the traditional Husky cheers, this results in more students being a part of the student section community where so much of that bonding happens. And when I sat with those students at tip-off, or I went to the first Potomac game and I saw the mass of students together wearing the same outfits, cheering together, you saw that togetherness. And that's built in August. And when we match seniors up with freshmen during the week, and we have them play together games such as Pictionary, we're beginning the process of turning the seniors into mentors on campus. Because as much as I'd like to be out in the hallways as much as I can, it's the seniors that set the tone for how we treat each other and how we behave. And we want to start those relationships then. The seminal moment of the week is when every student and faculty staff member signs our core values board, which is then put in the main hallway of the upper school building. It's roughly 700 signatures that serve as a daily reminder of the pledge that we have to each other in the classroom, on the field, and in the greater community. And there are times I walk by with students and ask them, what does it mean to be a part of that pledge, to treat each other in the ways that we hold to, in the ways that Meredith showed you on the slide deck. And I really think the result of all this intentional and strategic work is the supportive community you'll notice when you step on campus. This supportive community goes beyond just creating a safe place for students to learn. It allows students to think about taking meaningful risks, knowing that we learn through failing and we grow through experimenting. When a student makes a mistake or fails, we want to have that excited moment. Like, what did we just learn in that moment? And we know that you can't blaze your own trail or ask what if in a community that doesn't support these risks and innovations. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was in the hallway outside one of the innovation classes where the students had designed their own cars with a certain amount of material. They wanted to see which would go the furthest. And the whole design of the experiment was, as soon as they rolled those cars down the hallway, they wanted to grab them and run back to the room and tinker with them again based on what they'd learned. Was it too heavy? Was it not aerodynamic enough? What can we gather from that? I think from the moment I stepped on campus, I started to see this with my own children. My daughter is in 8th grade right now. And when we came to Virginia from Florida, she swore she would never play a sport. She said, I don't deal with balls flying around. That's not me, Dad. Well, at the middle school here, everyone plays a sport and they accept everyone. And now I have this experience of seeing my own daughter as an 8th grader try volleyball for the first time. And from the moment she stepped out there, she'd been surrounded by players and coaches who just cared that she was there and she was trying it more than her ability to spike a ball. And where do you think I spend every Saturday now? At the local rec center, taking her to volleyball. And just last night, same thing with softball, out in the field, rolling grounders. And just that change for her to have tried something. And I think this nurturing and the support that they get, it stays with them throughout their time at Flint Hill. And it's capped off by a senior project where students pick an important topic to explore in great depth over 50 hours. Before we graduate them off in the world, we send them out in a mini exploration to pursue something they care deeply about. So at Flint Hill, our seniors only have 2 or 3 more weeks with us. And then they're going to go learn in the world for a month with our support and our connection and reaching back to us. And to find out what they did in their own mini projects, whether it's the student that I'm mentoring who's repairing cars or the student I'm mentoring who's looking at environmental policy in New York City. It's the ultimate moment of blazing their trail and being yourself. And as Meredith said, as a through line, from the moment they came to us at JK, we keep building and building that ability to ask what if, to be able to blaze, to be supported, to be okay with failing until they get to that senior project, which becomes this kind of paramount experience for them. But before we can get your children to that point, we need to talk about the curriculum, this broad and rich and deep curriculum that we have them use so they're prepared for that moment. And to go through the points of that curriculum, I have with us today the Assistant Director of the Upper School and the Upper School Academic Dean, Debbie Ayers. So I'm going to turn it over to Debbie so she can walk you through a lot of that scaffolding we do at the Upper School to get them ready for that moment.
Thank you, Don. Good morning, everyone. It's great to see you, and I love the fact that we have a small, intimate group today. I hope you will put your questions in the chat box or either just come on to the microphone. I would be happy to have your question while I'm doing this little mini presentation of our academic program. I want to start by just tossing out some words before I start into what our academic subjects are in our departments. I want to say a few words because this is really the basis of the Flint Hill program. Connections, relationships, character development, leadership, unifying while diversifying. All of these core ideas about building students over our program 4 years, 3 years, whenever they come in, whichever grade they are, is part of the academic program too. We set up a program where skills are so important. The skills for communicating, the skills for critical thinking, for research, for being able to explore sources and be able to cite sources. All of these important skills are captured within 8 vibrant, very exciting departments of academic education. We have English, history, social sciences, our science department, our mathematics department. We have classical languages, modern languages, innovation, and fine arts. And our students will proceed through each of these departments all through their 4 years here. They will take a certain number of courses that are required for their Flint Hill diploma, but they will also have other opportunities to explore some electives, to maybe double up in a subject area. And all of this is done with careful planning, support, conversations with their advisor. Every student has an advisor. They're assigned at the beginning of the school year as freshmen, and then there's another advisor that works with them from sophomore, junior, and senior year. We have in my office the registrar, and as academic dean, we also work with students to help select courses, to meet with them throughout the year after they're in those courses, to provide advice about study strategies, to support their through line to the next course in their progression, and to just sort of bat around ideas for what they're learning, what they're researching. All of this in the context of those words that I started my talk with: connections, building relationships, building and talking about good character development. We do that through our Academic Honor Council. We have a group of students here who are elected by both faculty and students to support the education of character development, making sure that when we research and we cite sources that we do that correctly, that we are being the best version of ourselves in all of our academic work. I get very excited when I think about the academic program here. This is my 17th year. I have been a teacher in the history department, still teach whenever I'm called. I have served as the sponsor of the Academic Honor Council for several years. I have been the 9th grade dean before the academic dean, and I'm the proud parent of students who graduated in 2010 and 2012. So I hope that we can anticipate some of your questions as we talk this morning and in future sessions, but I also hope that you will feel very comfortable reaching out to us, asking your questions, telling us about your son or your daughter, and letting us partner with you as you engage in the journey of high school for your sons and daughters. So I am going to stop talking at this point and invite my guests who are on a panel to introduce themselves, to maybe tell how long they've been at Flint Hill, if they're a student, if you're a parent. Tell us the age of your children. We have an alumni, Mackenzie Fitzgerald, who is joining us from Ohio this morning. She is a Buckeye, graduated in 2021. We're excited to see you on the screen, Mackenzie. Welcome. And I'm going to start with a couple of questions after the introduction, and then I hope that triggers questions from our guests today. So I will read from the chat if you want to put your question there, or if you raise your hand or start talking, we'll just do this rather informally. I hope you enjoy this portion of the session. So let's start with our parent panelists, Tanea Parker and then Janice Host. If you would just introduce yourselves briefly, tell us a little bit about your experience at Flint Hill, and then I'll move into Andrew Kane, then Mackenzie, and by then we may have our 2 student panelists online then too. All right, so Tanea.
Well, first, good morning to everybody. I'm honored to be here and doing something that I absolutely enjoy because we love the school. We have loved Flint Hill. We have been at Flint Hill this is our 3rd year. We came from a school that only went to 8th grade. So when our daughter, when we were in search for a high school for our daughter, Flint Hill was our top choice. So we have been here since her 9th grade year. We also have, she's 16 and she's in 11th grade now. We also have a lower school student, Justin, who is just turned 10 years old. So he's in 4th grade. We have absolutely loved the school, and I can tell you the top reasons we have loved Flint Hill. We've heard time and time again about the community. I'd say that's number 1, and I got to tell you, it is not artificial. And maybe later I'll get a chance to talk about how my husband and I first thought, well, this just doesn't, this feels too good. It's utopia. I bet it's because they're just trying to get us to sign on that paper. But I got to tell you, it hasn't changed. The community at Flint Hill is amazing. I know we'll talk more about academics and the broad range of choices our kids have, but those are just some of the top reasons we love Flint Hill. The community, the diversity in options, and community itself as well. But we'll, I'm sure, get into that a bit later. Good to meet you. Good to be here.
Thank you. Janice?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Janice Host, and I am the mom of 1 Flint Hill graduate and 1 soon-to-be Flint Hill graduate. We have been associated with the school since 2016. Both of my boys went to a previous school that only went to 8th grade, and something we always promised them was when they were looking for their high school experience, they could be somewhere that included athletics. Their previous school did not, and they were both very keen about having that athletic output. And Flint Hill fit the bill. And also something that they were very keen about and totally consumed them was the robotics program at Flint Hill. And both of them dove in as freshmen. They volunteered, even if they couldn't officially be part of the robotics program. And both of them have moved on to be the leads of the robotics program for their respective years. So I had the benefit of kids who were athletes and nerds, and it was a unique combination. So I can speak to how the school allows you to really explore whatever you'd like. There are so many outlets and so many things you can be a part of. I definitely echo the idea of the community. We just had a good feeling when we walked in, and I'm very much the person who goes on feeling. That's what I felt when I walked in there. That's what I felt when I talked to people. I let my kids be the lead. There's no sense me picking a school for where they're going. And they both did visits. They both, talked to kids who went there, and it was their decision. And I have to tell you, I wish I'd thought about it and I'd picked it out. But there's a picture I have when my youngest got his admission to Flint. He ran and jumped at his brother. So his brother had to grab him. He was so excited that he was going to be able to follow Big Brother's footsteps at Flint Hill. So our experiences have been great. We have had, as I said, diverse experiences. I've had the ability to volunteer, and I do love to be on campus myself. That gives you a little chance to see what's really going on. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Mr. Andrew Kane, our freshman class dean.
Thank you, Mrs. Ayers. Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Kane, and as Debbie said, I'm a freshman class dean. As you've also heard from Debbie, when you're at Flint Hill and you work here, you wear many hats. And so just to highlight, in my 11 years here, I've been a 10 through 12 advisor, a ninth grade advisor, currently serving as the freshman class dean. I used to oversee our senior projects program, as well as serving as a team leader. My primary role here at Flint Hill is I'm Associate Director of College Counseling. So if there's any questions in that front, I know we're still early on that, but I also have that experience. But you might be wondering, oh, and I'm also a current parent. I have two lower schoolers, class of 33 and soon to be class of 36. So very excited to have them here and a part of this great program that we run across all three divisions. So you might be wondering, what is a freshman class dean? So at Flint Hill, my role is to oversee our advisory program primarily for the ninth grade class. And with that is a big job because all of our students are coming to high school for the first time. And so part of the ninth grade advisory program is getting them used to what life in high school is like. And we have a very intentionally designed and developmentally appropriate program because we know research shows that starting the day, getting greeted by name, and having some opportunity just to talk to peers is essential to success on a daily basis. And so within our advisory program, we'll do things like run around the room and do a greeting, or I give every advisor a little husky so they can toss it and play little games with it. Right now in advisory, every day I've dropped a little riddle into the advisory slides that they can work on. What the students don't know is I'm priming their brains for a big grade level wise trivia competition that we're going to have right before the end of the school year with a little prize for the winning advisory. But relationships is one of our pillars here at Flint Hill, and that starts in the advisory program. It's going to be that smaller community within our larger ninth grade community, and then within the whole upper school, and then all of Flint Hill. So we do a lot of great things there, and I saw some questions about social integration, everything, and we'll touch on that a little bit. I don't want to dominate the time, but I will say that everyone in the upper school gets to interact with other students in many different ways. I think about, I was Mackenzie Fitzgerald's ninth grade dean when she was a freshman, watched her come through the whole upper school experience. When I was a ninth grade advisor, Janice's older son was in my advisory, and he was new to Flint Hill, but the day he walked in the room, you would have thought he'd been here forever, the way he just jumped right into the experience. So we have a lot of great things going on within that ninth grade access point, whether students are coming from our middle school or outside of the school, to really jump in and explore all that the upper school has to offer. So I'll stop there, but look forward to what questions come up as we move along.
Thank you so much. All right. And this morning from OSU, Mackenzie Fitzgerald.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. I'm so excited to be here and see everybody's smiling faces. I am really excited to be here because one of my favorite things in high school was actually showing people the school that I cared so much about. And it's really nice to be able to come back and see all these faces and feel the same welcome home that I always felt every time I walked in the door. As you've been told, I am a freshman at Ohio State University. And I think that the thing that prepared me most to come here was Flint Hill. I have straight A's, and I definitely attribute that to all the teachers that have taught me different study tactics, how to approach different things. And I don't think I would be the same well-rounded person that I am without having this community around me that I can still reach out to every day. So I'm really excited to answer your questions, and I'm just really happy to be here.
Thanks so much. And I have two current students with us now. We've had a class change, and so the bell rang and I saw them pop on the screen. AJ, if you would introduce yourself, and then Angelica after AJ, that would be great.
Yeah, hi. I'm AJ. I'm a senior. I've been to Flint Hill since first grade. So I've been through the whole process, and I just want to help show off the school and answer any questions I can. So, yeah, nice to meet you.
Angelica.
She left the meeting for a little bit. She might have lagged or something, but
okay.
She was here. Yeah.
Okay. When she pops back in, we'll say hello to Angelica. All right, so here we are. Angelica, would you like to say hello to our guests this morning and maybe tell a little bit about your grade and something that you're involved in at Flint Hill?
Yes, sorry, my internet cut out. I'm on my phone, so it might cut out again. But my name is Angelico Tagawa. I'm in 10th grade. I I did some winter and fall sports. I have a club. I also do ambassadors, and I'm also in the major.
I think Angelica was going to tell us that she's a member of the major minors. Are you back? Okay, we'll have some questions for you, Angelica. I'm going to go ahead and start the panel since we.
I'm so sorry. I cannot hear you at all.
Okay, no worries. All right, I'd like to go back to the question from Kelly B about what the school does to support the social integration of the new students. Could I direct that to you, Andrew?
Sure, absolutely. Great question. Thank you, Kelly. So one thing we're very intentional about is regardless of where our students' entry point to the Flint Hill Upper School is, everyone is new to the upper school, new building, new experience, et cetera. And so we construct our advisories with the intention of making sure that all the students are mixed together, right? So we have students coming in from outside of Flint Hill. We're not going to all have that same school be in one advisory group or anything like that. We are mixing all those students around so that just from day one, they're interacting with a large number of students who are coming from different middle school experiences. We also are very intentional in how we get our freshmen involved in the school year. So we kind of ramp things up. So the first month is particularly focused on getting used to academics in the upper school. And then we start opening up our leadership processes. So for example, the Academic Honor Council that Mrs. Ayers mentioned, students get to run for that. We'll elect 2 representatives to serve on that for the second half of their freshman year. And then we'll also do a Student Council Association election to get students 2 representatives to represent their class for the second half of the year. Our club fair is usually in October so that students have the opportunity to experience what clubs are here. But, on day one, everyone's so excited. They'd sign up for every single club. Their email be flooded. They never actually get involved in anything, just like college. But, so we do give them time to really figure out what they might be interested in and really do that. And then we have a lot of different events. So we have peer counselors is another leadership opportunity run by our counseling department. That's run by upperclassmen, and they meet with our freshman advisories once a week without the advisor in the room. So it's student-to-student conversations about anything like, do I need a dance to homecoming, to maybe bigger topics around life and school and those things that come up. So again, creating opportunities to connect with upperclassmen. As Mr. Page mentioned during our upper school orientation, we pair 9th and 12th grade advisories together so that our freshmen can get advice from our seniors and get some insights into what to do with their experience. And then again, our advisory groups are usually 10 to 12 students. That's a smaller group where the advisor can check in. If it seems like a student might be struggling, how can we connect them with other people so that they can make sure they're having a positive experience both inside and outside of the classroom?
Thank you. I'm going to take the question from Lisa about outside of the classroom learning experiences besides sports. We have service learning opportunities where our students can engage in opportunities within the community, some of them right here on campus, to work towards serving others. Many of them will develop a project, and that project will have some longevity to it. They might carry for 4 years their activities with the service project, or some will have multiple service projects that they can participate in. We also have publications. We have a yearbook. We have a literary magazine. So students in their after school time will contribute to those publications. We have a variety of arts experiences. So our students can be working with our clay club. They may be doing, as Angelica said, she's a member of the Major Minors. That's our a cappella group that meets outside of the school day. And then we have opportunities with our innovation department that Janice mentioned. Her sons have been very active in our program for robotics, computer science. We have competitive teams for our students that participate in innovation as well. So that's just a few. I apologize, students, if I've left out yours, and I hope you will mention that as you have a turn with the microphone. Next question is sort of tangential to that. I wanted to ask our students to talk about how you select your courses. What type of support do you receive when you are deciding what to take next? Because that's kind of where we are for you, Angelica. Alexander, you're leaving, and so maybe you can talk about your previous experiences, but tell our families, how do you select your courses? Where do you get the support for that?
So, because I'm going to be a junior next year, a lot of people say it's kind of a big pressure year. You got to make sure that your courses are like perfect for you. And I felt a lot of that pressure until I went to college counseling. So when the course recommendations came out, my parents were like freaking out completely. But what I did is I just popped into the college counseling office and I asked if they had a minute to talk with me. And they were able to go through my recommendations as well as what I want to take and what I want to take in senior year. So they were able to give me a roadmap almost of what I should do junior year to be able to take the courses I want in senior year. And that was really helpful. And I completely understood them. I was able to ask any questions I wanted to. And I think that the college counseling office is a really, really good resource we have here at Flint Hill. So I really appreciate that, and it helped me a lot.
I mean, there's definitely a lot of resources for like selecting your courses. I remember when I was selecting my courses, it was all on the Flint Hill website. So you could literally just go on the website. All the courses were laid out for you. You had your recommendations. So even if you didn't go to college counseling, it was still really like well explained and well laid out, to make like picking courses pretty easy and fine tuned for you. So yeah.
Thank you very much. We have a question about transferring from public school settings to Flint Hill. Do I have one of our parents who would like to talk about transitioning from one school to ours?
I can certainly speak on that. Knowing that we had to make the decision, I got to tell you, it was a huge anxiety point for our family, knowing, you know, our previous school only went to 8th grade. So we knew we had to make the transition. And our daughter had very specific requirements, as did we. But our decision to allow her to make the decision and her to lead not only the schools that we were going to consider, but also the ultimate decision was huge. But Flint Hill did a phenomenal job in a lot of activities, even prior to the school year, where she was able to get in and meet students that were that she'd ultimately have classes with. We started attending the year prior, like Spring Fest, and we came to the homecoming events. There were things and opportunities that we had to get to know the school, as well as her to get an opportunity to meet some of the students. I'd like to highlight too, and I'm not sure if I know we've started it back, but Flint Hill also has a summer camp that not only the upper school children, but even the lower school children can get involved in. A lot of the upper school kids serve as camp counselors. That was an opportunity also for her to start getting to know kids and just being able to transition, because I think in high school, so much of an easy transition has to do with the social aspects. Academic is one, and that's what we parents worry about. But for our kids and their comfort level, it has a lot to do with the social. So every opportunity we could give her to get to meet students, meet even some of the people who would possibly, administrators that would possibly be our teachers, was great. But then once school started, there was a period of orientation. It wasn't just an orientation day, it was an orientation period. And it integrated so many different aspects of what the students needed to learn to become comfortable with the school. Not only the academic aspects of it, but the school building itself, getting to know the teachers, getting to know how things operated. And that was a huge, huge deal. I believe that so many other schools, because we did look at several, they have orientation day. We actually had an entire orientation period that I think made such a huge difference. So I don't know if there were any questions about that, but hats off to Flint Hill. I think transition is very easy, and what certainly was for us.
Thank you. We have a question about our Learning Center. Our Learning Center is, we have 2 learning centers at the upper school. One, our Learning Center staff there work primarily with our 9th and 10th graders. And then on the other end of our building, we have another Learning Center that works primarily with students in grades 11 through 12. So our students who have qualified for academic support in terms of a learning profile. That information is provided to our learning centers, and we begin a program that could include daily check-ins. It could also include monitoring or testing accommodations. So there's a variety of ways our Learning Center would support students, but we also rely heavily on our Learning Center to help within the classroom for all of our students. So our Learning Center staff is great to give any of our teachers strategies and helpful advice about working with our students to create an experience that's rich and help our students be their best selves and most successful within the context of that program. So it will vary from student to student, but that is definitely a wonderful opportunity that our students can take advantage of. Let me ask another question. These were some of the topics that when you registered, you gave to us. One of them has to do with our athletic opportunities. And Mackenzie, could I turn this over to you since you played sports here? Could you talk to us a little bit about athletics at Flint Hill?
Of course I can. I probably should have mentioned that I play lacrosse at Ohio State. I should have mentioned that earlier. But throughout my experience at Flint Hill, I played multiple different sports, and I think it's really great that people keep asking about like the integration of new students versus old, because freshman year I decided to play volleyball for the very first time, and my entire team was pretty much new, and we became fast friends, and it was such a nice community to have. And Flint Hill does a great job integrating that through sports. I played volleyball freshman year. I did tennis my junior year because I wanted to try something new, and I got to integrate with a lot of the freshman class and some sophomores because I played junior varsity. But I highly recommend the sports department and playing a sport because you try something new around people that have never met you. And the great thing about Flint Hill is nobody ever judges you for making a mistake. They're always there to support you. And I think the sports are a great example of that.
Thank you. Mr. Kane, I'm going to come back to you for this one. What kind of students do best at Flint Hill, and what traits do they have? This may tap into your dual roles as college counselor as your 9th grade.
That's thank you. Yes. The thing I will say is there's no one student that can be successful at Flint Hill, and that's what's essential, right? We are a you want to hear this at every school, but we are a student-centered school, right? So when it comes to working with our students, we're going to meet them where they are, which are going to be different places. You know, for looking at 9th grade, you're going to have some hard-charging students who step on foot on campus on day one and want to do everything inside and outside the classroom. And then you're going to have those others that need to kind of be dragged along a little bit until then they're going to really hit their stride in sophomore, whatever it is, in all different ways. You know, oh, I don't want to get involved in that. I just want to, you know, do this, whatever it is. But I think the way our program is designed is to help students uncover their interests and figure out what they want to do so that they can, as they make their way through the program, can really take advantage of what's there. So you might have some students, like Janice mentioned, her son's coming in, they had the robotics interest, but they also had the sports interest. So they knew what they were looking for. But you're going to have some other students who don't know. And so curricularly and extracurricularly, we want them to do that, right? So we have our athletic and activities credit. So students will be doing a sport or something like that. We have our fine arts credit where a student's like, okay, I'll give ceramics a try. And by senior year, they're leader of the clay club and producing art they never thought they could do because they never thought that's what they wanted to do. Because, you know, 13, 14-year-olds think they know everything. But, you know, as I'm sure you parents know, there's still a lot going on that they need to figure out. So again, there's not one student or trait, but I will say that, we are a school that provides a lot of opportunities for students to put the spotlight on themselves. If you are an extroverted student in particular, there's a lot of opportunities for that, but that does not mean that there aren't just as many opportunities for those students who might be a little more reserved. And there's going to be those opportunities to find that interest. And so I think the most important trait that a student at Flint Hill needs to have, and it goes back to our core values and being curious, is always be willing to ask a question, whether it's ask for help, ask for, I didn't notice a club that does this. Does one exist? If so, what do I do to get it started? I am curious about something that, I saw. What's that about? Whatever it is, the key thing is to ask, because if you're willing to step forward, find that trusted adult in the building to ask those questions, we're going to help you find the way to what you want to do in order to be successful. And so I'd say that's the most important trait. After that, within our community and everything we have designed, we have all the pieces in place to make sure that any student can be successful here. And of course, we're always looking out through advisory, our teachers, through our grade level deans, everything else. Sometimes students are worried about asking, and so we're also keeping an eye on them to make sure we're in there to help them out and move them along. But if they're willing to step forward and ask, there's always going to be that opportunity to figure out, what we can do to help them achieve their goals, find that success.
So thinking about their goals and their success, Alexander, boil that down to the number of classes a student might take during the day. What are the options for a daily schedule? What does that look like?
Well, I mean, usually, during a day, you'll have like 5 class periods, but like in total, you'll have 7 like different periods to assign classes to. So you usually want one of those to have like a free period. Um, Other than that, in terms of like how you would want your classes to be like set up, you usually want like a math, a science, an English, a history. But there are also some electives too that you can take as well. Me personally, for my success at this school, I'm kind of a computer science kid more than anything else. So I've taken a lot of computer science electives, a lot of computer science classes on the side as well, that have helped me succeed. So if I were to like give sort of a general idea of how that works, it would just be like you can take what classes you think you would need to succeed. So
thank you. Angelica, or our parents that are on board, what's the benefit of having a study session? If like AJ said, you have 7 opportunities for classes, but we like to see one of those being held as a study period, what's the advantage, or what have you noticed with your children, or Angelica for yourself, to have a study period?
I definitely have benefited from having a free period, especially this past quarter. A lot of the times, like, it's just a break in the day that you can allot to anything you'd like. I usually try to split it half and half between studying, doing my homework for the day, so that when I get home, I don't have a big load, so I can just do whatever I want at home, or just hang out with friends. It's kind of a break from the academic side of school, and you can go into the more social or personal aspects of it. I found that my mental health really improved having a free period, because I was able to do all of my workload in school and then just come back home and really focus on myself and kind of unwind from the day. So a lot of the times is really, really recommended to have a free period no matter what classes you want to take, because the benefits outweigh the possible class that might add extra stress to you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in and agree with that. Both of my boys, heard from somebody who heard from somebody the benefits of the free period. And in that freshman year, and Mr. Kane, you can correct me on the language here, but I'm not sure what it's called. There's sort of that, I'll call it a developmental class of some sort that they do for 6 weeks. And we sort of heard through the grapevine, the best thing to do is to do the first session of that class. So you're coming in with a full timetable, but once that class drops off after 6 weeks, you have the beauty of this free period. And boy, does that make a difference for you that first semester. So as I said, Mr. Kane can give that the right language. I'm not sure what it's called, but that was definitely, they felt like they had a gift by having that, especially in their, their first freshman term. And then I'm just going to go down a very short rabbit hole to say one of the other reasons we really liked Flint Hill, and this is me putting my parent hat back on, was that ability for the kids to meet with the teachers after classes between 2:30 and 3:30, knowing they could go see their calculus teacher, they could go see their literature teacher. Those teachers were there. You didn't have to try to figure out what time is Mrs. So-and-so available, what time. And those teachers were always happy to help. And, they figured it out. They could go sit in Mr. So-and-so's classroom and do their homework with Mr. So-and-so there. So if they got confused, if they hadn't understood something earlier that day, if they wanted to get a jump on something, there was Mr. So-and-so or Miss So-and-so. So for me, that was a huge selling point. And I didn't pick my kids up at 2:30. I never picked them up at 2:30. It was always at least 3:15, 3:30. So just a little rabbit hole there.
And if I can just add really quick, it's kind of summing a lot of this up. Angelica spoke about, well, it all started with the question about the free period, the ability for the kids to go meet with their teachers, the office hours. And aside from that, the ability for the kids to go hang out in the teachers' classrooms to get help and or do their homework. We've talked a lot about mental health. And I think we know, not just with our kids, but adults as well, how critical it is to keep mental health at the forefront of all considerations. And I think these breaks, the support system that our kids have from the teachers, be it planned or even informal, the relationships. And I got to tell you something too. The relationships my daughter has been able to build among the teachers, the faculty, the staff, as part of her circle, that all contributes to the positive mental health our kids have. I think many of us were raised where adults are adults, you're the kid, they're the ones that, you listen to them, you do what they say. This community that we have at Flint Hill not only supports it in the social aspects, they are there for all the mental health talks that may not be, you might think, oh, go see a counselor. No, they're not all that. Sometimes it's just, I just need the mental break. But just having these planned pauses and breaks and the ability to go to staff, to your teacher, to administrators, and just have a seat and just decompress, all contributes to the wholeness and the holistic child. And that has been a complete blessing to our family and to our daughter.
I'd like to add in really quickly, sorry, but as I was actually going to this panel, I ran out of class, right? And I didn't really know which office to go into. And I was kind of running around. And then my freshman advisor, Mr. Lomax, saw me and he was like, oh, what are you doing? I was like, I need to find an office. I need to go to this panel. He was just like, just take mine, just half an hour, right? And I'm like, yeah. So I'm in his office, and it's the relationships you build with your teachers and the staff that are just able to help you out, even just like that. And it's really important. And I'm kind of sitting here thinking, wow, that was so nice.
Thank you so much. So I want to pull this back to those words that I said at the beginning, because I hope that without me defining them or giving examples, that you've been able to see the definition and the examples through the words of our families and our students and Mackenzie. Connections. There are so many connections here, and it isn't just a teacher to a student. It is any adult here takes the time to be connected with students. We want to get to know who the members of our community are, and we want to work together for common goals. Relationships is so important. Just as Tanea said, being able to just sit down and have a conversation can have such lasting benefits. Getting to know someone in a moment of stress can bond you together in a way that can stay with the student for much longer than their years at Flint Hill. Being a school that highlights character development, talking about, well, here's a decision you have to make. There's a shortcut, but there's also one that may take you a little bit more time, but you're going to feel so much better for having chosen that pathway. That's going to be more meaningful to you because that was the right decision. Having that opportunity to talk and plan with students, I'm so appreciative for myself. And then leadership. You can see in the students that are speaking today, they're great. And we could have picked even many others that are going to be able to very articulately talk about their program, to give you encouragement as you're making this decision for your families as well. But helping to grow leaders here, that is an important task that we all hold dear. And then lastly, I mentioned unifying and diversifying. We want to be a community that feels cohesive and together, but at the same time, we want students to feel like, well, my passion may not be the same as my best friend's. I want that opportunity to explore new classes, to try a sport that I haven't played before, to try my hand in the art studios, to use a ceramics wheel for the first time. All of these things make a student unique, and that uniqueness builds their confidence and gives them, the next step for taking those meaningful risks that will launch them into very successful futures, like we're seeing with Mackenzie as she steps into her college role. So were there any other questions before I turn the mic back over to admission? Okay, well, thank you so much. It was just a pleasure to be with you this morning. I do appreciate your time, and I also appreciate the time of our guests from the community who shared their experiences with us today. So thank you all very much, and have a lovely rest of your day. I'll turn it back over to Lauren and the admissions team.
Thank you, Debbie, and thank you to our amazing panelists today. It was so nice to hear from you all, and for our guests. I'm sure you can imagine that they could talk for hours about Flint Hill, and we all have our wonderful stories to share. So we appreciate their time today and their words, and especially for Mackenzie logging in from Ohio. We may target Devin next, Janice. So just give him a heads up. All right, so we are moving into the admission portion of the presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to turn my camera off. If someone could let me know when it is up.
It is up.
Great. Thank you, Julie. All right. Terrific. So the admission process at Flint Hill is really about us getting to know each other. We truly approach it in the Flint Hill way, with transparent dialogue throughout the experience, with the mission and the student at the center. We ask that families bring their authentic selves, as we will, so that we can make the best decisions for each student together. We really want to make the process as low stress as possible, and are here as guides kind of throughout that process for your families. And I'll walk you through, give you an overview of the admission requirements at Flint Hill, and then the timeline that we're working through. So in terms of the starting point, is always the online application, and we have a link right there for you to see, which is also on our website. So the application takes about 20 minutes to complete. It's pretty quick, and that is through our Husky Hub system, so our community portal, which is used for prospective families as well as current families. So once you submit that application, you'll see a checklist of other required admission materials for your student. And you'll see a very clear check mark once those items have been submitted. So it's a really easy system to use. Those other supporting materials that we require include official transcripts or progress reports from your student's current school, 2 letters of recommendation, one from a math teacher and one from an English teacher. We also have an option to submit any supplemental recommendations that you would like from, a tutor or a coach, piano teacher, whomever you feel can really speak to working with your student. And then questionnaires for both the candidate and then the parent. Those are directly linked in the checklist, so you can complete those in your own time. We do ask, in terms of the process, that you move forward with the items that need to be sent from the school first, because those are less in your control. We also require a graded writing sample. So we want to see a sample of your students' writing with some sort of evaluative component. So whether it's a letter grade or a rubric that's attached with some comments from a teacher, just, what their writing looks like, and then how they were evaluated on that piece. We are standardized test optional now. So if your student has taken any standardized tests, we would be happy to include those in their admission file, but it is not required for admission at this time. And finally, we have the student and parent admission interview. So that would be scheduled for 1 hour with your assigned admission officer. And, it's nothing to prepare for. We always get asked, how can my students prep for the interview? We really just said, want them to be their authentic selves. And it's really an informal conversation about their experiences at their current school and kind of, why they're drawn to Flint Hill and what they're looking to get out of their experience. So nothing to prep for there. So we do them separately, the student typically first, and then the one or both parents or guardians. All right, in terms of the timeline, so in September, our application will launch, and families are welcome to submit their applications at that time. We recommend families to really think about using the fall, prior to the winter holidays, to get their applications in order, because things can move very quickly between the winter holidays and then our deadline, which is kind of mid to late January. So we recommend that families use October to schedule their admission interview, and perhaps any tours or student visits that they're going to engage in, which I'll talk about in a minute. And like I said, request the transcripts and recommendations from the current school. We typically recommend waiting until early November to request the transcripts, to request the recommendations, just because we want your student to have ample time to get to know their teacher and vice versa before requesting that formal recommendation, since school will have just started in September. So by December, like I said, you should really kind of be finishing up the application to be ready for the admission deadline in January, and can use that time to finish up any last minute pieces that need to be submitted. We, at this point, don't have our exact dates set for next year. We are waiting to hear from our governing board, AISGW, to set some of those dates. So we recommend that you check back on our important date section of the website in September for our exact, admission application deadline, financial aid deadline date, and then the admission decision release dates. For people that may be interested in this year, you're welcome to, meaning this upcoming school year for your student, they should, email, call, or schedule an appointment right away, as there may be space, depending on the student profile and how it fits into our current composition, given our intentionality and approach. And of course, the faster, they get in touch with us, the more possible it is to find a space. Some of our classes, our grade levels are at capacity already, and there is a few spaces available in other grade levels. So please get in touch with us as soon as possible. Going back to kind of the traditional application cycle, decision notifications are sent in early March. So it's about a little over a month after the application is due. So that gives the committee time to evaluate each applicant. Decisions are shared electronically. And then in March, we have opportunities to come back onto campus and visit for kind of one last event prior to the time that we require families to let us know whether they're accepting our offer of enrollment or not. And those are called our revisit events. So usually by mid to late March, we have our list of newly enrolled students. And in the upper school, we have placement testing that we will schedule for April. Actually, this past Saturday, we had our placement testing for our new upper school students, where they would be required to take placement tests in certain subject areas and then elect to take placement tests in other subject areas where they may be interested in being recommended for an honors or AP level course. We also have a welcome celebration. We're hosting that this week. We're doing a mini golf event at Oakmar for our families on Thursday night. So that's just an opportunity to connect with other new families and some current Flint Hill families that will be in, their students' same grade level. In May, we have an event for parents called New Family Information Night, where you get to really kind of walk through your checklist of items that you'll need to address, in the late spring and early summer before your student enrolls. So health forms, what do you need to get from your student's doctor? How do athletics work? How do I sign my, student up so they are notified about camps or preseason tryouts, all of that good stuff. How do you use Husky Hub from kind of the current parent side of the portal. And then over the summer, we have various social events for families and particularly for the students, again, to get back onto campus, kind of get acclimated, meet some of their peers that they'll be in classes with before school starts in August. And we start the Monday before Labor Day. So how do I connect? So you'll see our upper school team, the pictures at the bottom. So feel free to reach out to, of course, myself, my wonderful colleagues, Justin and Julie as well. And we can, any of us can help direct you and answer any of your questions. Thank you again for, jumping on this event opportunity today. Events are always a great way to engage with our community, hear from a variety of different community members. And we also record our events, so we have access to previous events that we may have held earlier in the school year that you can access through our website as well. A phone consultation, you can schedule that with any of our admission officers, or a virtual meeting if you prefer this this format of Google Meet. And then we're very active on social media, so we encourage you, if you do have any social media accounts, to of course follow us on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. We share a good bit of what goes on in the community through social media. So please access us there and schedule appointments. Great. I think that about covers it. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And get back on camera. And one thing that I alluded to that I didn't fully get to discuss was a student visit opportunity. So in the beginning of the cycle, of course, we encourage you to come visit, take a tour, both parents and students. But our students who apply also have the opportunity. They will be invited to do a shadow visit. So they can come onto campus and shadow a current student for a half-day experience where they get to go into live classes and experience some of the social periods throughout the day, and really hopefully get that feeling as to whether or not Flint Hill would be, a place where they could see themselves. I think it's a really good indication of that kind of feeling of, wow, this could be the place for me. So we highly encourage that opportunity. And those dates would run from October through February. And then we also have some spring dates available for those of you who may be interested in applying for your student for this upcoming school year. I'm going to ask my colleagues if I'm forgetting anything. They want to jump in? Nope. Okay, wonderful. Any last minute questions before we finish up for today's event? Nope. Okay. Well, again, thank you so much for being with us and taking the time out of your morning. I hope you all learned a great deal about our amazing school, and we'll be moving forward, whether it's this year or next year. So we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much.